Do mysterious beasts roam North America's forests? Next on the critical eye, legendary myths. Tall tales, legends, myths. Hello, I'm William B. Davis. In this hour of the critical eye, we bring fresh scrutiny to controversies debated the world over. We'll look at the creation story of Noah's Ark, the epic but elusive Loch Ness Monster, and the lost continent of Atlantis. But first, we examine tall tales of the man-beast said to roam the deep woods. Is Bigfoot really out there? Or is this creature merely a figment of the collective imagination? Legend holds that Bigfoot is part human, part animal. Perhaps a vestige of a lost tribe or a vanished civilization. Whatever the explanation, descriptions of the creature are remarkably similar.
Bigfoot is a creature that is 6.5 feet to 8 feet tall, man-like, covered in hair. It has a foot that looks like a human foot, but it's anywhere from 14 to 18 inches long.
If Bigfoot is in fact a creature, it's a primate that walks on 2 feet, then it is the only primate other than man that is truly bipedal. That means that it is a closer relative than the chimpanzee. And yet it has no tool-making abilities, it has no language, it has no culture. All of these things make it a very improbable creature and also unsuitable for the Pacific Northwest environment.
Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman has been tracking Bigfoot across North America for more than 3 decades.
There's various theories about what Bigfoot is, of course, and one of the major theories is that it's in essence, a species of hominid that really has survived in a relic state, probably migrated over from China, from the Asian area, across the Bering Straits, on down into the Pacific Northwest.
The evidence that we have for Gigantopithecus is very, very scanty. It's a few molars found in a cave in China. We don't really know what the creature looked like. We know almost nothing about this creature. And to presuppose that it migrated to the Pacific Northwest, I think, the data is not there to support such a proposition.
We know from Native American legends, Native Canadian legends, that there were creatures around called, variously translated as hairy giants.
Out of these folk tales arose the legend of Bigfoot, or Sasquatch.
A lot of people like to believe that there's this sort of pure, untouched creature that's out running free and wild that nobody can explain. And I think for a lot of people that's comforting. And I think that's part of the reason that the Bigfoot myth has endured.
Over generations, repetition created a larger-than-life character. But was it accurate, or was it a collective fantasy?
We find a Bigfoot-type creature almost in all the corners of the world. In Florida, it's called the skunk ape. In the Pacific Northwest and in the East Coast, it's called Bigfoot. In China, it's called the wild man. In the Himalayas, it's called the Yeti.
Michael Dennett has spent 20 years tracking the legend and its origins. He feels the variety of similar accounts the world over can only lead to one conclusion.
The evidence would suggest that there is not a physical creature. The only creature that actually inhabits all the continents is man himself. For an animal to have such distribution is highly improbable.
One of the startling revelations in modern anthropology is that we did not exist alone. Upwards of 1.5 million years ago, for instance in Africa, there were 6 or 7 separate species of humanoids. It doesn't go for much of a stretch of imagination to think that in parallel with humans, but a little bit further back into the wilderness, these creatures have existed.
Aside from the anthropological possibility, Lauren Coleman says scientific evidence shows that Bigfoot is real and does live among us.
First of all, you have forensic evidence, footprints that are actually showing dermal ridges. So you're having fingerprint experts saying, this is a unique species. This is something that people can't fake. Thousands of miles of footprints if you put them into end. You have hair samples, which also come back inconclusive. Why did they come back inconclusive? Because we don't have a type species of Bigfoot yet. You have a whole body of modern sightings from some very credible people, police officers, priests, Boy Scout camp leaders, and housewives.
Others say a single argument refutes these reports. If a Bigfoot species did inhabit North America, it would need a sizable breeding population.
In order for there to be a sustained population, there would have to be between, the estimates are around 6,000 to 10,000 of them. So just think about that for a second. We're talking 6,000 to 10,000 Bigfoot in America. There's thousands of them, if one is to be believed, and you simply don't come across thousands of Bigfoot everywhere. There aren't that many tracks, there aren't that many sightings, they're not there.
One compelling film stands out in the Bigfoot debate. October 1967. Bluff Creek in Northern California. Trekking the forest on horseback, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin encounter a strange creature.
They were just supposedly filming footage for a documentary. Background footage of sandbars, of trees, different things like that. That's why they had the camera along. They come around to bend, the horse gets spooked. Roger gets down off the horse and starts filming this incredible footage of what is a Bigfoot.
After examining the Patterson-Gimlin film, Lauren Coleman reached several conclusions about the creature in the footage.
The creature in the Patterson film is about 6.5 feet tall, but it also has the bulk and the weight of something much more than any human. If you look closely at this film, you'll notice that the knees do not lock. The actual shoulders on an ape are higher than the head. And so when an ape looks at something, it moves its whole body like this. When a human looks, we move our neck.
The height of the creature could not be substantiated above that of a normal human, that the motion, the fluidity of the motion was well within the capabilities of a human form. It looks to me like a man in a fur suit.
Peter Byrne, a self-described Bigfoot hunter, has spent his life tracking the legendary beast across the Pacific Northwest. He believes he's on the verge of a great discovery. However, Byrne warns it will be hard to find the most definitive type of evidence.
We still don't have physical evidence, and that's what science demands. There's a reason, of course. People ask me, they say, why hasn't a body been found? Well, the reason for that is fairly simple, that in the Northwest, just like in Asia and in Africa, when something dies, it's eaten by other animals. Here we're looking for something which is obviously shy, very elusive, very wary, very conscious of man as an enemy, possibly nocturnal, moving all the time.
This would be valid if the reports that we have of Bigfoot only came from people penetrating into these isolated areas. But in fact, most of our reports from Bigfoot are in populated rural areas, and we do have numerous reports from suburban areas and even some urban area reports. Bigfoot essentially is really a creature of the inhabited areas of the state, not the uninhabited areas.
For 4 decades, Peter Byrne has directed major expeditions aiming to find Bigfoot. He has used the latest technologies, techniques, and analytical methods.
We use ground sensors, motion sensor cameras, 2 helicopters, one of which had a FLIR, which is a forward-looking infrared unit, and they were on standby. So that if ever we got a sighting, and we got to the sighting quickly enough, we bring the helicopters in, try and get close to whatever was there, use the FLIR to track it, and try and get in on it with video cameras.
This technology has yet to produce an image of Bigfoot. So Byrne continues to track the beast on foot.
Now this is interesting because this is an overhang in the bank, and it's a place where wild animals would take shelter from cold wind, from rain, and where a Bigfoot actually might take shelter also. So when we find a place like this, we always search it in the hope of finding some kind of evidence. In 1960, in a place very similar to this, we found a bed. The bed was 9 feet long, 4 feet wide, and about a foot thick, and made with moss. And there was an indentation of a body in the moss. The bed could only have been made by 3 things: by a fisherman, but we were 30 miles back, a long way from anywhere, and the fish in the stream were very, very small. Fishermen didn't go there. Could have been made by a hunter, but a hunter doesn't go back 30 miles to shoot a deer and then carry it out. And again, the moss in the bed, which was 12 inches thick, was pulled off 3 trees up to a height of 12 feet from the trees, higher than I could reach. And all of this added up to the fact that it was very probably a Bigfoot bed.
Without physical evidence, Bigfoot remains just a legend.
The dearth of good photographic evidence for Bigfoot is a compelling argument that Bigfoot is a creature of legend, not a creature of fact.
I believe that a well-organized and well-funded project, a few $1 million, say 5 years, is possible we could bring one in.
There are other forms of evidence that would suggest further investigation. Credible photographs, multiple unrelated eyewitness reports. Based on the evidence that we have, there's no suggestion that this is a real creature. It conforms to exactly what we would expect from folklore.
People up in the Pacific Northwest can have a whole lifetime of hiking in the woods and never see a mountain lion. We know mountain lions exist. Why aren't people seeing them? Mountain lions avoid people just the same way that Bigfoot does. Are there mountain lions around? Yes, there are. Are there Bigfoot around? Probably.